Welcome back. Today, we bring you an exciting summary of a thrilling and mysterious film, where two soldiers uncover a dangerous secret inside a secluded rift and face terrifying creatures in what could be their final mission. Get ready for intense action and unexpected twists. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated. Our film begins with a young woman named Raza, hiding inside a tree while clutching her weapon, waiting for the perfect moment to act against her target. At that moment, we realize that she is a skilled sniper. Afterward, Raza visits her father, who is sitting in a cemetery in front of his wife's grave, playing music for her. She approaches him, places flowers on her mother's grave, and then sits beside him. We soon discover that her father is aware of her being a sniper but disapproves of her work. She hands him the remnants of the bullet she used to eliminate her latest target, and we learn that he keeps these remnants in a small bag. He asks her to stay with him for at least a week so they can spend some time together, and he promises to cook her favorite meal. However, Raza informs him that she has received a new mission and has a meeting early in the morning in Moscow. She will be on this mission for an entire year without any means of communication with anyone. Her father asks if she will be able to talk to him during the year. She gives him a sad smile. Then she asks if he has been to his doctor's appointment. He tells her that he went, but it was pointless. The doctor confirmed that his cancer had progressed beyond recovery. Because of this, he has decided not to wait for death to take him, but instead, he will end his life on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Raza is shocked and visibly heartbroken. In another scene, we meet a new character named Levi, who wakes up terrified from a nightmare. He quickly gathers his clothes, gets into his car, and drives to the beach, where he sits until dawn. Suddenly, he receives a message from an unknown number ordering him to report to a Marine Corps training camp. Upon arrival, we learn that Levi was once an elite sniper, but he retired 4 years ago upon his psychiatrist's recommendation. He meets with a high-ranking military official, a commander, who asks him if he has anyone close to him. He replies that he is alone and that no one would mourn him if something happened to him during the mission. Later, Levi boards a military aircraft, where a female soldier confiscates all his belongings, including his phone and watch. She informs him that they have almost arrived at their destination. When Levi asks where they are going, she tells him that this information is classified. He then parachutes from the plane and heads toward his designated location, where he meets a soldier named JD, who welcomes him warmly. JD asks Levi if anyone has informed him about the mission, but Levi admits he knows nothing. JD reassures him that he will explain everything later and tells him that he has spent an entire year without speaking to another person, seeing a human being, or even knowing which country he is in. He then takes Levi to the watchtower where he will spend his next year. He explains that the tower is fully equipped, operates on solar power, and has a backup generator, as well as a small vegetable garden for sustenance. Levi asks about the second tower on the other side. JD tells him that there is another soldier stationed there with the same mission, but they are strictly forbidden from communicating as they are separated by the rift, which they must guard. Inside the tower, JD instructs Levi to check the automated gun daily to ensure it is loaded and functional. He also informs him that the area is filled with landmines and that a satellite has been placed to make the rift invisible to the outside world, ensuring that no one knows it exists. Not explicitly mentioned in the English text, Protocol of the Stray Dog is mentioned as an emergency measure known only to the commanders. He further explains that if Levi ever hears sudden aerial disturbances, he must flee immediately. Levi is shocked by the extreme security measures and secrecy surrounding the rift. When he asks about it, JD tells him that the location has been classified for the past 75 years and that their mission is specifically to guard it. However, Levi is further stunned when JD reveals that their true task is not to guard the rift from intruders, but rather to prevent whatever is inside from escaping. To prove his point, JD throws a grenade into the rift. Immediately, Levi hears strange, terrifying noises rising from the darkness. He asks JD about these sounds, and JD explains that the creatures inside are called Hollow Men, though no one knows much about them. He also reveals that a battalion of 24,400 soldiers was once sent inside to eliminate these beings, but none of them ever returned. They simply vanished. Later, it is time for JD to leave after completing his year of service. He boards a helicopter, but just as he is about to be lifted into the air, one of the soldiers accompanying him asks for the passphrase. When JD provides it, the soldier thanks him for his service, then immediately shoots and kills him, disposing of his body without any explanation. The next morning, Levi checks his weapons and attempts to communicate with the soldier in the other watchtower via radio, but they abruptly cut off the call. While exploring his tower, he notices writing on the wall behind one of the bookshelves. Upon closer inspection, he finds messages left by previous soldiers who had been stationed there, including JD. Some of the writings date as far back as 1986 and even 1947. As he investigates, he hears the sound of a saw buzzing from the opposite tower. He looks through his binoculars and sees the other soldier, a woman named Daresa. That night, Levi is startled awake by the sound of thunder and heavy rain. Believing that something has escaped the rift, he grabs his weapon and rushes to check. In his panic, he accidentally steps on broken glass, injuring his foot. While treating his wound, he glances at Darasa's tower and finds her sitting calmly, preparing to sleep. A month later, on Darasa's birthday, she decides to celebrate alone. She raises a large piece of paper asking Levi for his name. He writes it down in response, also reminding her that they are forbidden from communicating. However, she insists, introducing herself first. In return, he writes down his name and wishes her a happy birthday. Later, she plays loud music and dances to celebrate. She and Levi continue communicating through written messages and even challenge each other to tests of marksmanship. Suddenly, Daresa notices something moving inside the rift and signals Levi to look. When he peers through his scope, he sees strange humanoid creatures, deformed and grotesque, attempting to climb the rift's walls. Levi immediately opens fire, as does Daresa, but the creatures keep coming. The situation becomes even more critical when several of them reach Darasa's watchtower, trying to climb up. She draws her pistol and fires while Levi provides cover. However, more landmines explode, sending shrapnel flying. A piece strikes Daresa in the shoulder, wounding her. Levi quickly activates the automated guns. A few moments later, Daresa tends to her wound and writes to Levi, telling him that this was the best birthday she has ever had. He smiles at her message. The next day, while Levi is adjusting the landmines and automated guns, he notices something unusual emerging from the rift, something that resembles a surveillance device. Together, he and Daresa examine it closely, trying to understand its purpose. By December, Daresa is delighted when she finds that Levi has decorated a small Christmas tree, leaving her a message wishing her a happy holiday. In return, she builds a snowman and writes Levi's name on it. Levi does the same for her, and they even play chess through their written notes. The storm raged on, and Levi's fear of the rift grew, dreading that something might emerge from it. At that moment, he looked at Daresa with affection. She, too, glanced at him, her eyes reflecting a sense of security and warmth in his presence. On February 14th, Daresa sat crying in front of a picture of herself with her father. It was the day he had chosen to take his own life. Levi noticed her distress and saw that she, in turn, was looking at him. He wrote on a piece of paper, "Why are you absent today?" He knew she wished he could be by her side at that difficult moment. Determined to reach her, Levi gathered everything he needed. He tied a rope to a grenade and hurled it toward her tower. Daresa noticed it just in time, deactivating the grenade before it exploded and securing the rope to a tree. Then, she looked at Levi and saw a message he had written. He intended to have dinner with her that night. Using the rope, he crossed over safely. When they met, she told him she had prepared a rabbit pie for him. He smiled, admitting he had never tried rabbit before but was willing to. He handed her a bouquet of flowers he had picked for her. She accepted them with gratitude, and they sat down together to talk. As they conversed, Levi shared his thoughts about his arrival at the location. He had no idea where he was, not even which country or continent he was in. However, he suspected they were in the northern hemisphere. They spoke about their experiences as snipers, and Levi confessed that he had spent months pondering the true nature of the rift and the creatures they had seen. Daresa responded with an old saying, "The truth can break the heart and shatter the mind." She then asked Levi why he had chosen to become a sniper. He explained that he had learned to hunt from a young age because his father was an expert marksman. That night, Daresa lit numerous candles, played music, and started dancing. She invited Levi to join her. He hesitated for a moment before agreeing, and soon, they were dancing together, their joy evident. The admiration between them grew, and eventually, they confessed their love for each other. Afterward, they sat together, gazing at the stars. Daresa asked how Levi spent his time alone. He revealed that he often read poetry and even attempted to write some himself. She was surprised but intrigued. He went on to explain that his passion for poetry led him to study it seriously. Jokingly, she asked if he was as terrible at writing poetry as he was at shooting. Then, with genuine curiosity, she requested that he write a poem for her, even if it was terrible. Levi admitted that he had already written one for her but refused to recite it. This only fueled her curiosity, and she pleaded for him to share at least the title. After some hesitation, he revealed it, "You Eclipsed the Night." Daresa was taken aback. She loved the title and told him it was beautiful. The deep affection between them was now undeniable. At dawn, it was time for Levi to return to his tower. Daresa bid him farewell and thanked him for the rabbit pie, which he had surprisingly enjoyed. She watched as he crossed back on the rope, but just as he neared the other side, an explosion shook the ground. One of the landmines had detonated as a creature attempted to scale the rift's wall. The blast severed the rope, and Levi plummeted into the abyss. Daresa screamed in horror before rushing to grab her weapons. She leaped into the air, deployed her parachute, and descended rapidly. A thick fog obscured her vision. Suddenly, she found herself plunging into a river, its powerful current pulling her toward a waterfall. She panicked. She didn't know how to swim. Desperately, she grabbed onto a large floating tree branch. Meanwhile, Levi was suspended upside down by his ankle, tangled in the remains of the rope. Around him loomed colossal trees, their twisted branches forming an eerie canopy. He was unconscious. When he finally came to, he found himself staring at a monstrous creature, an enormous, grotesque hybrid between an insect and a beast. Instinctively, he reached for his pistol and fired, causing the creature to recoil. In the process, he lost his grip and fell onto the ground below, landing in a thick, glue-like red substance that trapped him. Suddenly, massive, fang-like structures emerged from the ground, encircling him like the bars of a cage. He struggled, but the more he moved, the more the sticky substance held him in place. At that moment, Daresa arrived. Seeing Levi in danger, she drew her gun and shot at the giant fangs, breaking their hold and freeing him. Relief washed over her face as she ran to him. Levi, still shaken, warned her not to touch the red substance. He then asked how she had managed to descend into the rift to save him. She told him she would never have left him behind. If their roles were reversed, he would have done the same. Both were bewildered by their surroundings. The rift was unlike anything they had imagined. They realized they needed to head east, where a cable system might allow them to climb out. As they walked through the rift, they began to hear strange, unsettling noises. The fog thickened, reducing their visibility. Then, out of the mist, figures emerged, humanoid creatures riding on horseback, wielding swords. The creatures charged at them. A fierce battle ensued. Levi fought desperately to protect Daresa, while she fought back with equal intensity. She managed to take down one of the riders with a precise shot, while Levi eliminated another. But then, disaster struck. Levi's automatic weapon fell into the river. Without it, even if they reached the cable, they wouldn't be able to ascend, as the climb was over 500 meters high. As they examined the creatures, they noticed something disturbing. Their armor was from the 1940s. It suddenly clicked in Levi's mind. These were the missing soldiers, the 2,400 troops who had been sent into the rift decades ago. A chilling realization dawned upon them. These creatures weren't just monsters, they were what remained of those soldiers. Terror crept into their hearts, but they had no choice but to keep moving forward, searching for an escape route. As they walked, they stumbled upon a ghastly sight: bodies of the creatures, frozen in place as though they had turned into stone, their forms resembling twisted trees. Levi recalled that the previous soldier had named them Hollow Men. The deeper they went, the more disturbing their discoveries became. Eventually, they arrived at an abandoned building with flags from various nations hanging from its walls. In the center of the structure, large craters scarred the ground. Levi speculated that they might have been caused by an old earthquake. Then they heard something, a strange, unnatural sound approaching. They quickly sought refuge inside the building, only to discover it was an abandoned church. Rows of dusty chairs filled the interior, covered in cobwebs and ash. Scattered among them were lifeless bodies. A pungent, chemical odor filled the air. Levi and Daresa recognized it instantly: cyanide. It was a mass suicide.
Before they could process the horror, movement flickered in the shadows. Then, without warning, enormous spiders lunged at them. Levi and Daresa fought desperately, trying to fend them off, but the number of creatures only increased. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, a new group of hollow men emerged, joining the fight. The battle became even more dangerous, and survival seemed increasingly uncertain.
Levi realized that their only chance of survival was to escape the rift as soon as possible. While searching for clues, they found modern computers, which puzzled Daresa. She pointed out that such advanced technology could not have existed in the 1940s. Levi accessed a file and discovered that the facility was under the control of an organization called Dark Lake. Unlike the military, this organization used the rift for genetic research, harvesting mutated DNA to create super soldiers. The secret research conducted in the facility was not only focused on nuclear weapons but also on the development of biochemical missiles with destructive power comparable to atomic bombs. 6 days ago, an earthquake with a magnitude of 8.1 struck the area, compromising the facility's integrity. The research team was forced to halt all experiments and instead focus on containing the disaster, ensuring that the contamination did not spread beyond the rift. Levi and Daresa noticed that the doctor speaking in the recorded video looked exhausted. Suddenly, she unbuttoned her coat, revealing her abdomen, which was grotesquely deformed with growths resembling tree branches. She explained that the contamination had fused human DNA with that of plants, animals, and insects, leading to horrific mutations. Some humans had a higher resistance to the contamination, especially if their exposure was brief, but the mutations would typically manifest within 5 days. She concluded her message with a grim statement: their fate was now sealed, to live and die inside the rift to protect the rest of the world from this catastrophe. The video ended, leaving Levi and Daresa in a state of shock. Levi and Daresa understood that their mission had never been about guarding the rift but rather protecting the organization's secrets. While digging deeper, Levi found a file labeled Stray Dog Protocol, which outlined emergency measures in case the rift's secret was exposed. He also discovered that the nearest safe zone was located 4.2 kilometers away. Realizing that time was running out, Levi decided to confess his feelings to Daresa before it was too late. He admitted that he had fallen in love with her. Daresa, equally overwhelmed, realized she felt the same way, and they both cherished the time they had spent together. As they searched for an escape route, Daresa suddenly remembered that she had left her bag in the facility. It contained all their remaining ammunition, making retrieving it essential. As they attempted to go back, they sensed the presence of the creatures lurking nearby. Levi deduced that the creatures were highly intelligent and devised a plan to mislead them. He used smoke grenades to obscure their vision and create a diversion, allowing them to move stealthily. They walked cautiously, weapons at the ready. Suddenly, one of the creatures on horseback threw a rope around Darasa's legs, dragging her away. She tried to shoot it with her pistol, but she was out of bullets. As she struggled, her head struck a massive tree trunk, rendering her unconscious. Levi sprinted after her, desperate to save her, but he soon found himself standing at the edge of a vast pit. He realized that Daresa had been taken inside. Inside the pit, Daresa was suspended by her wrists, still unconscious. Before her stood a terrifying creature, a grotesque hybrid of human and tree. As it loomed closer, it reached toward her abdomen, pulling out a tree branch that had somehow embedded itself in her body. The pain jolted Daresa awake, and she screamed in agony. Gritting her teeth, she threatened the creature, vowing to kill it. Summoning all her strength, she lunged at it. A violent struggle ensued. In a desperate move, she grabbed a flaming branch and pressed it against the creature, setting it ablaze. It writhed in pain before finally collapsing. Just then, Levi arrived. Seeing Daresa alive, he ran to her, pulling her into a tight embrace as she trembled in his arms. Overcome with emotion, she broke into tears. As she calmed down, Levi noticed a name embroidered on the military uniform of the creature she had just killed. It read Bishop Radford, the name of the first soldier stationed at the watchtower. He was the one who had originally named these creatures Hollow Men. Levi realized that there was a missile storage facility nearby, which might hold the key to their escape. As they proceeded, they encountered an unsettling sight. Hundreds of Hollow Men were in a state of deep hibernation, surrounded by networks of mutated DNA strands. Moving cautiously, they tried to sneak past them. However, Daresa accidentally tripped over some of the strands, causing a disturbance. The creatures began to stir. Levi rushed to help her, but he, too, became entangled. Thinking quickly, Daresa fired at the web-like strands, breaking them apart so they could escape. Eventually, they stumbled upon an office labeled Maintenance. Inside, they found several old military jeeps. They managed to get one working and drove toward the eastern wall of the rift, where the automated cable system was located. Levi stepped out of the jeep to secure the cable, but just then, the creatures attacked again. Daresa held them off with gunfire, but she soon ran out of ammunition. With no other choice, they jumped into the jeep and drove toward the ascending cable system. Just as they were being lifted out of the rift, the creatures latched onto the cable, climbing toward them. Levi and Daresa fought them off as best they could, but there were too many. Realizing they had no other option, Levi broke open the fuel tank of the jeep, dousing the creatures in gasoline before igniting them. Then he cut the cable, sending the jeep plummeting back into the rift, engulfed in flames. He and Daresa clung to the last remaining rope as they were pulled upward to safety. Once outside, Levi tended to Darasa's wounds. She told him that they needed to go into quarantine. He asked what they would do if they were found to be contaminated. She replied that they had to do what was right, for themselves and for everyone else. Levi then revealed that he had been chosen for this mission because he had no one to live for. But now, that had changed. He had something worth living for. Daresa suggested that they escape together and go to France to start a new life. Levi agreed but insisted that before they left, they had to destroy the facility. Otherwise, others would come to continue the organization's dark work. The next morning, Daresa used a grappling hook to secure Levi's return to his tower. During his radio check-in, the commander asked if he had been the one to enter the rift and activate the device. He denied it, so she concluded that it must have been the Eastern Watchman and ordered Levi to eliminate him. Levi complied verbally, but in truth, he had no intention of following orders. He told the commander that he had seen the Hollow Men. She merely laughed and asked if he knew the true purpose of the research. She explained that the goal was to create an unbeatable American super soldier. She assured him that there was no reason for anyone to be upset about it. Levi played along, pretending to agree. But the commander did not trust him. She ordered her men to move out at dawn, intent on eliminating him. Watching Levi and Daresa through surveillance cameras, she whispered to herself that she had handpicked him, And now, she would be the one to end him. The next morning, Levi and Daresa executed their plan. They heard the roar of approaching aircraft. Levi told Daresa to run. When the commander arrived at his tower, she found it empty. She immediately ordered her soldiers to activate the drones. Levi and Daresa sprinted, needing to put at least 4 kilometers between themselves and the rift before it was destroyed. As the drones attacked, they managed to shoot down one after another. Then the alarms blared. Realizing she had lost control of the situation, the commander attempted to flee, but she was too late. A missile was launched at the rift, obliterating it completely. Levi was thrown into the river by the blast, losing consciousness, while Daresa blacked out. Days later, Daresa awoke in a secure location, where she remained in quarantine to ensure she was not contaminated. After 5 days, she was declared safe. Later, she was seen in France, working in a small restaurant. One day, she opened the letter Levi had given her, which contained the poem he had written for her. As she read it, she looked up, and there he was, standing before her. Overcome with emotion, she ran to him and embraced him tightly. And with that, the story came to an end.